ongoing by the end of this year?
No, the transfer is ongoing. Let's not forget, basically it is foreseen that by the end of the year, these activities and the people will be transferred to us. And so at this stage, as long as they aren't transferred, it's basically managed, and the risk is basically managed by Deutsche Bank, which they have done very well.
More broadly, can you give us any guidance on when you expect a real recovery in the real economy?
Yeah, our stance has always been that in what we see today in Europe, given that the vaccinations are ongoing, that probably around the third quarter of this year, there would be a balance. And that balance then will basically lead to a pickup that should be a sizable pickup, and it should be a sustainable pickup. So that's what we continue to see.
Are you worried that the French president is actually exiting the lockdown too soon?
Listen, that is yours to judge. What we do see is that it's basically the tapering off is being handled in phases. What we see at this stage in basically the many countries in Europe is that every confinement has been handled even in a better way, and so things look on track.
BNP Paribas CFO speaking earlier on Bloomberg, and we take a look at some of the intraday trading of those with exposure to Archegos and those without, and frankly, the difference is pretty stark. Credit Suisse, the risk committee head, stepping down after investors said they're going to oust him. Nomura's U.S. trading chief stepping down after that $3 billion hit. But then you do have Barclays and BNP saying, you know what? We were spared from the losses. Let's do it all with our Bloomberg Wall Street correspondent, Sonali Basak. And Sonali, really does look like a tale of two worlds in many cases.
Yeah, it's a tale of two worlds with Archegos, but it's also in fixed income a big differential, right? You see BNP and Barclays really posting knockout results here, missing that Archegos hit, but also posting great results in equities. Where they lag is fixed income. Investors want to see more from them. And you look at that share the U.S. banks have taken, and even some of the traditional big players like Deutsche Bank, right, really upping their game in fixed income, which is really a bigger fee pool at the end of the day. Let's talk about Archegos, though, because here's how that industry works when it comes to prime brokerage. The three largest prime brokers, which is Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, they're they're able to take more share, of course, but mostly it's the folks right under them that want to capitalize on this business that perhaps some firms like Credit Suisse may be shedding on the heels of this really grand debacle.
Interesting that, of course, BNP Paribas has been taking over some of those prime brokerage parts of Deutsche Bank, and so maybe looking at beefing up that part of the business. I'm interested, Sonali, in, of course, the ramifications that keep on happening for Nomura, for Credit Suisse, new executives eyeing up the fallout, really.
Yeah, absolutely. You're seeing really the talent here take a hit, people being held responsible for having taken on that risk in the first place. So what does it lead to? It really leads to a ripple effect in the rest of the industry, looking at their own risk books. While, Caroline, why does it matter? While they try to take on more business at the end of the day. As we know, there's a ton of executives out there like Guggenheim Scott Minerd that fully expects another Archegos-style blow-up with such excessive pockets of risk-taking, fueled by this market. But, if you know that Nomura, right, is going through this pain and Credit Suisse is shedding some of its own talent and businesses, the other banks, think BNP Paribas, think UBS, think Wells Fargo, what opportunity do they have to gain share?
30 seconds. Female retail investors now make up 30% of the Robinhood app. Is this the introduction to taking on a more active role in investing in our finances?
Yeah, you're still seeing it going. Even with that worry that retail investing would be dropping off, there's still another leg to come, Taylor.
We're all buying Bitcoin, Caroline, or so I hear. Definitely not us. No investment advice here, no actual skin in the game, completely discompassionate. But, of course, women are taking it on when it comes to retail investing. Sonali Basak all over that story. We thank you. Let's have a look at what the rest of the market's doing for you. Down 6/10%. Taylor, nothing on yields. Unch. Nothing's happening. It was a risk-on day and bonds don't move. This is Bloomberg.
I'm Mark Crumpton with Bloomberg's First Word News. President Biden argues many more Americans will see tax cuts from his proposed tax hikes on the wealthy. The president defends his proposal as a once-in-a-generation investment in America, and he says the infrastructure part of it would create millions of jobs. By the fall, Mr. Biden is likely to see some version of his $4 trillion economic plan passed in Congress, but he faces criticism from some splintering Democrats plus Republicans. Infrastructure investment is vital for businesses. This comes from U.S. Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo as she defended the Biden administration's proposals to raise capital gains tax rates and end some corporate tax breaks.
The investments that the president is calling for in infrastructure, in broadband, in job training, in basic research are absolutely vital for American businesses to remain competitive and necessary, and have been delayed for far too long.
Republicans call the increased taxes a job-killing proposal. Secretary Raimondo rejects that and says it won't discourage investment. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security says at least 5 federal agencies may have been hacked due to flaws in products provided by the IT security company Ivanti. DHS has not identified the agencies. It also hasn't named the source of those cyber attacks, but hacking from China has increased. We end in London. That's where it appears that a big portion of London's young professionals and lower-paid workers have drifted away as jobs dry up. Demand on Spare Room, a website that pairs up people seeking house shares and rooms to rent, has plunged 23% since the start of 2020. Lockdowns and Brexit prompted thousands of people to leave London. Global news 24 hours a day, on air and on Bloomberg Quick Take, powered by more than 2,700 journalists and analysts in over 120 countries. I'm Mark Crumpton. This is Bloomberg.
Less than half an hour left in your trading day, in your trading week. This is Countdown to the Close. I'm Caroline Hyde.
And the trading month. I'm Taylor Riggs.
Yeah.
Romaine